Du- Hey guys, what's up, man? It's Dark Lord Deuce, aka the Elden Armor. We're gonna do an episode tonight, kind of based around dueling setups. Some of them that I like a lot better than others. I've been getting a lot of questions about it. What's the best dueling setup compared to the best invasion setup, guys? I'm not a big invasion guy, so I'm gonna go ahead and say right off the muscle, kind of short and sweet about invasions. Number one in invasions, sometimes when it's three versus one, guys, the best option is to run and get next to PvE in a zone that it's got to, say where a tough mob is to get that in the fight with you, so it kind of evens out the odds. Number two would be I've seen a lot of people doing parry swaps to where they'll parry one, get a misery cord swap, and crit and get rid of one. Other than that, guys, stuff like what is it called, the Hand of Melania, enduring into that, right when you're in a crowd of people, or the Twin Moon spell is a real good one if the mage. Um, some other things you can do, guys, is getting colossals with a big AoE, like, let's see, what's that called? Waves of Darkness. That's a good one to use. But there's a lot of options, guys. You just got to get comfortable with what you're using. Now, as far as weapons go, guys, I'm not a big G9 fan, but something G said here a while back, I really liked what he said. And he said, in the game, if you find a weapon you like the move set, you're more comfortable with, even though it's not considered meta, any weapon in the game, somebody can learn how to use it really well and make it OP, depending on how good you are with it. So say you got an off meta weapon that's not really considered good, but you get really skilled with that to where it's not it's unorthodox for people that are not used to it, so that makes a big difference when you get into the off meta, people not being used to the timings. So when you're using something like that, you can become and make it meta compared to where, say, with a poker, where you just pretty much hit R1. Like myself personally, I'm not a big poker guy, so I suck with a poker. Mainly with pokers, it's just trying to space people and use R1, and whiff punish. Now, that being said, guys, I'm going to go over three of my favorite weapons in the game that I've used. One of them I started the game with that's not really seen a lot. It's the long haft axe. My favorite weapon in the game is by far Kiba's, guys. I think, Kiba's has an answer for just about any setup in the game. They do a lot of damage, especially even if you don't have the shard on with unsheathed, you can do some insane damage. Then you get spin a slash on it, which is absolutely absurd on a Kiba. But with that being said, guys, there's going to be a few clips you'll see that are, some other off-meta weapons that I've used just to kind of give you an example of what you can do with them. And like I said, anything can be deadly and be OP if you learn how to use it properly. Now, we're going to get into these clips, guys. If you like the video, like, subscribe, and share. We're trying to get to 500 subs so we can get some more stuff opened up in the community. But as always, man, the Elden Armor. Alright, guys, in our first clip, this just pretty much you need to have 60 vigor, guys. You can see that was on one shot with a dagger doing some damage, so always lower your vigor. Parries are a real useful tool in invasions, especially if you're down low and you really need a lot of damage. So that's something that everybody should learn very quickly when they start a duel. Number two, guys, is there's a way to strafe most attacks and be able to run around and get a backstab. So this is just pretty much negative spacing, and it uses certain attacks that people use to be able to get them around behind them and get the backstab and catch them in the recovery frames. So that's something else that's real useful in invasions, guys. Now this is kind of getting back to where anything can be powerful, especially if you're mashing. You don't ever want to mash, guys. Here's two clips that'll show kind of what happens even if you're real skilled, and sometimes people will get caught out mashing, and when you do, it can be just pretty much the end of the road. Now, the axe itself, guys, what you're trying to land with it is that big R2 right there. And when you follow up with the R1 comes out real fast on the axe. So what you'll want to do is try to either get some way that you can get them to where you want them to roll and then fully charge the R2. You see right here, just the absolutely devastating, damage from the axe is crazy. Now, my third setup, or second setup, should I say, that I like using is probably my favorite is Kiba's. Kiba's have a real nice three-piece combo, which is a jump attack, or a jump L1 into an unsheathed R1, or you can run it into the jump attack into unsheathed, into crouch attack, which pretty much if you land that in a three-piece combo, guys, that's pretty much somebody's body. That's one you'll see me doing a lot of invasions and a lot of duels. That just to end people's lives. So what you'll want to do is just practicing setting it up, guys, and getting the timing down for the unsheathed. I always tell people this game is a lot like chess, and what you'll want to do is try to anticipate the person's next move. Now, doing that, sometimes it'll get you in trouble, but if you learn how to anticipate, it can really, really help, especially in close invasions or duels, because just like with a parry is pretty much 90% anticipating it, when to throw it and what they're going to do next. So it's always very useful to try to anticipate somebody's next move. Kibas are one of those weapons, guys, that I would always recommend learning how to fight with one instead of two. And also when you're fighting with one two-handed, learn how to block cancel. And finally, guys, we're going to get into backhand blades. Backhand blades are just absolutely devastating. They can end the game really quick. A lot of people don't know how to play with them. A lot of people will wait till somebody attacks and throw the blind side. I like to try to use it as a roll catch, guys. I found it having real good results throwing the charged R2 into the blind spot to roll catch. And then if you need to, sometimes, guys, if people are abusing hyper armor, is to wait it out and actually use it like the Corbin, I think it's called the Corbin dagger in the S3, and be able to kind of slide around attacks. Now, somebody tried saying the other day that, blind spots still had, a lot of iframes, guys. You'll see them on these videos here. They really nerfed it to the ground. You don't really have any iframes, but like just a minute bit. That's what allows you when people swing to be able to jump out around it. It has to be perfectly timed. Now, when you're playing against somebody who's very latent or light rollers, backhand blades are definitely the way to go. Back in the day when I first started, they had what we called a monkey mashing weapon, which was straight swords. And then, right now, backhand blades are probably the monkey mash kings. If you can see, guys, how I use the blind spot to actually roll catch, a lot of people don't expect that, so that's another thing that kind of catches people off guard. A lot of people like to use two of them, for the crouch attack, to be able to, kind of like with lances. But me personally, I don't think the trade for those is worth as much as being able to throw the charged R2. And if you can see right there how I got caught in the first one, dodged the second one. The reason I wanted to clip that one, guys, is to show this is blind spot's not really hard to dodge. You just can't be mashing. Now, the great thing about backhand blades, guys, is the running R2 and the charged R2 are both very devastating. Charged R2 can really lead into a lot of different combos, especially with using blind spot or different Ash of War, because a lot of people don't understand the only way you can guaranteedly hit somebody if they're not ungodly latent is roll catching them. So if you can learn how to roll catch with the R2, you'll see me do it a lot through the video. That means a lot. Now with a Swift Slash, what I like to do is when somebody's really low, to kind of use it for chip damage to get that last little hit, or to get a hit on somebody when they're using the ritual shield talisman to kind of knock it off of them. But backhand blades, all in all, guys, there's not a lot of people who use them correctly. They're made to be able to do a lot of damage quick and then get out, but at the same time you have no hyper armor with them. They don't have a lot of poise damage at all, and you got to be very careful with them. But if you get in a situation where somebody's mashing and you're going to try to mash with them, you're 99% of the time going to win. Now, what I would suggest with backhand blades when you first start playing with them is to actually use them without an Ash of War, to try to get the feel for them. I told a lot of people a long time ago when Swift Slash was so broken that the Ash of War was actually being used incorrectly. I always used it to be able to kind of escape and do a little damage as I'm shooting away and create distance between me and other people. Now, in this video, I tried to use some things that I hadn't. I'd seen some videos on the what are they called, the guard counters, to try to use those to see what they were like and how they were useful. Unless you have a tier, guys, that's got the deflecting hard tier, it's real dangerous. This build that I'm using here is a strength build. Backhand blade scale A on a heavy infinity, let's go S on dex, so they're do a little bit more damage on dex. But at the same time, guys, when you're using them, if you're not very careful, you can get yourself in a bad situation with them quick. Because, like I said, if you start to mash with them and somebody's kind of anticipating it and they get their attack off first, and you kind of, throw it and then try to keep going after they break you, you've got to roll out, guys, and get, some distance and then reset. The main thing, guys, that I will say about backhand blades, the reason people play them improperly is just because when Swift Slash was, really, really broken, everybody thought that's all you had to hit. I started going through them because I already done my first playthrough through the DLC with backhand blades, and I will say this: they are very, very good for PvP, and they are very, very good in PvE also. They do a lot of damage. They're easy to be able to take and do damage, but at the same time be able to get out of an attack and out of your recovery and get away. Now in this match here, I was just kind of exploiting the guard counters, but at the same time I was just testing some things. If you see when I block with them, guys, they even with full endurance, and this tune has 46, I was just about got guard broken with one hit. So if I had threw one attack before that or anything like that, I'd have been guard broken. So be very careful in duels when you're doing that, to make sure that you don't get guard broken, because in some cases if somebody has a misrecord in their back pocket, that could be game over. And like I said, here I kind of anticipated him being out of endurance because he threw so many attacks, and this is how I got away with it. Now that was totally my fault. Overdrive is a really good player. So is Donut Gasket, or Donut Fingers, that I'm fighting here. And you got to kind of watch when people are real aggressive, because if you get hit first, like I said, they have no hyper armor, you can get in a bad way. He ends up switching to backhand or to curved swords and does the running attack, and I just wanted to see how they would fare damage wise. And I kind of lost the trade the first time, I won it the second. Now guys, the reason I saved this one for last is this is my first apprentice, which is Sauce Dano, or Lad Inspector. He's really skilled, guys, and most of the time, where we fought so much, he knows what I'm going to do before I do. But in this case, I have to use Blind Spot to try to catch him off guard and get him out of, out of his rhythm. That way I can kind of get a little combo started. And if you can see here, the Blind Spot into R2, and the Blind Spot into R2, and then roll out. And then the way I was trying to think, because I've got him down many times like this, and then when he whiffs right there, with that attack, it makes it to where you can actually whiff attacks and get in. But as always, guys, the Elden Armor, peace out.